Hey folks, it's me, Ranger. Now, of course, we are back again doing another review. I'm planning to get at least one review out before classes starts, so yeah. But today I thought we'd take a look at one of my more recent purchases. I actually got this figure, when the week when I got hacked, so thankfully this figure kept my sanity while I was going through not so good time, but yeah. So, anyways, we are of course taking a look at one of Mattel's more infamous and more favorite releases for the Dominion toy line, and it is of course the sound Slashin Therizinosaurus. Now let's get some facts out of the bat. So yeah. So in the film canon, Therizinosaurus, in terms of its genome, was actually used in the creation of the Indominus Rex. Because if you look at the Indominus's big claws at the end, those are the part of the Therizinosaurus, its big claws. So that makes sense. And of course, later on, Biosyn cloned at least one, I believe, at least one Therizinosaurus. And in the movie, we see an interesting thing that it more or less could be blind because it has, whitish eyes. So it looks like, so yeah, it's blind, and we can see how it's stalked clear in the film that it more or less relied more on its senses, like its smelling and hearing. And I like how in the movie, it's implied that yes, while this dinosaur is an herbivore, it is super territorial as immediately it tosses a deer like it's nothing. Yeah, honestly, that part kind of made me chuckle a little bit. But yeah, so obviously in the film, it obviously tries to stalk around Claire. So yeah, and of course later on in the film, we see it battling the Giganotosaurus and helping out Rexy, and it actually delivers the final blow to the Giga when it pierces claws through the Giga's body, which I thought was a pretty cool finishing move. So yeah. Now in terms of the actual animal itself, Therizinosaurus, meaning scythe lizard, came from Asia, and unlike most theropods, as I mentioned before, it was actually an herbivore. So it more or less ate tall plants from trees. And the claws, while it looks pretty defensive as we saw in the film, it may have more or less helped it grab branches when it was eating. Now the size of this dinosaur was around 30 to 33 feet, so definitely one of the more bigger theropods out there. And in terms of the environment it lived in, if I can, yeah, so it was discovered in the Nemack Formation, as I said, in Asia around 70 million years ago, and one of its main predators around the time was the fierce Tarbosaurus, and other forms of dinosaurs such as Saurolophus, and what else? So yeah, it lived in Tarbosaurus, Saurolophus, Gallimimus, and Mononychus. So those are just some of the few animals that lived alongside at the time. But yeah, so with that out of the way, let's get on with the figure. So there's no doubt that the Therizinosaurus design is definitely one of my favorite designs in the Jurassic Park franchise. Therizinosaurus itself is a really iconic dinosaur to me. I remember watching the BBC Walking with Dinosaurs special, The Giant Claw. That was a really epic special. Then, of course, it was in the anime Dinosaur King, and so it had a bit of representation over the years. And it's not hard to see why. I mean, it's a really strange dinosaur to begin with, but I think the crew behind Dominion did a pretty good job designing the animal. And so yeah, so without further ado, let us get on to the figure review. So I guess we should start off with I should start off with the size actually, because I actually got my camera far back, since it is a rather big figure. Like you can see it next to my hand. It is when I got it at Target, it was around $35. So definitely one of the more pricier figures in the line right now. Well, not exactly pricier. I mean, in terms of the main Dominion line right now. So yeah, that is until we get the big battle set with Rexy, Giga, and Therizinosaurus that will come with Ellie Sattler. Man, that's kind of a dumbass move by Mattel and kind of greedy. But that's a story for another day. But as I was saying, so yeah, pretty big figure. Discuss more about the size later on. But anyways, let's get on with the head of the figure. So yep, here we have the head. Really nicely sculpted head. Definitely looks like what we see in the movie. You know, the head of the Therizinosaurus in the film actually is a bit more boxier than other depictions. Because from what I've known, Therizinosaurus had more of a slender like head in real life, I think. But some art depiction has it in a boxy head, and it looks like they chose the more boxy like shape for the head. No big deal, as you know, it's Jurassic. You know, they're gonna exaggerate some features, so no big deal with me. But yeah, we can see really nice sculpt. We can see nice feathering detail around along with the scales. Of course, there's a big plus for a figure since, you know, in more recent years, Mattel is starting to do more feathered dinosaurs. You know, started with the Mononychus, and of course, we're seeing more feathers for the Dominion line. We got the Pyroraptor, of course, and of course the Rugops. Strange species to do feathers, but anyways, on with Therizinosaurus, we actually have feathers on his or her chin. I'm actually gonna say her, since a lot of the dinosaurs in the franchise are female. So yeah, we can see feathers on her chin. Very nice. You can see the beak. My Therizinosaurus does have a bit of scuff on her beak and on this side of the chin, but since it was on a Target shelf, I'm not really a complaint, since I would figure that some kids would, you know, horse around with this guy. So no big whoop. I mean, it is the best Therizinosaurus I could find at Target at the time. So no big deal. So yeah, you can see the colors. You know, we got a minty green on the bottom here, navy blue on the middle portion, and around the eyes we have more of a maroon color around the eye socket. Then we got the eyes with a slit eye feature. And yeah, and I'll discuss about the sound later on. But yeah, so speaking of the eyes, so like I said, in the movie, we see that the Therizinosaurus more or less could be blind because of the whitish eyes. But for some reason, Mattel and even some of the promotional renders for the Therizinosaurus made it look like it has normal eyes. I'm not sure if that's just for promotion's sakes or whatnot, but you know, maybe down the line Mattel could maybe make a repaint of the Therizinosaurus, but except with the whitish eyes. Who knows? But yeah. So yeah, we got more scales here, we can see, and then transition into the feathers with the red. The red painted feathers, they're actually not too bad because it actually gives out a bit more texture to the feathers, and we can see a bit of wash there also. So really nicely done. Then on the neck we have the green and the blue divided by this white stripe here. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the sound later on. But yeah, we got stripes going down, divided by the green and the blue. Then of course we got more red wash on the feathers. That's one thing I like about this figure. The texturing is actually really nicely done. We have, you know, nice textures, and nasty nail. Get that out of the way. Yeah, you did not just see that, but yeah. So we got a nice textures with the feathers continuing down, and it's nicely divided by the scales we see here. I would imagine that in real life the dinosaur would have been completely covered in feathers, but you know, considering this is Jurassic and a lot of its animals are scaly anyways, you know, this is actually really passable, to be quite honest. But yeah, there is a bit of a paint mishap on my figure. You can see a bit of red bleeding out, but it's not really a big deal, honestly. So yeah, and you can really notice it if you move it in certain positions like that, and you can hear more sounds. But yeah, and then of course, looking at the neck of the dinosaur, you can see more scaly textures going down. Really nicely applied here. We got the green going down. It is a bit annoying that the green stops here. That does seem a bit inconsistent, though Mattel has been kind of known to cut corners with the paint recently, especially with some of their newer figures. I mean, some of the Roar figures have been lacking paint on their backs, so yeah, but considering that the rest of the figure is well sculpted and painted, it's passable to say the least. So not really the biggest deal breaker on this figure. So yeah, something to keep in mind though. So yeah, then of course we can see the sound box obviously, and it's still making sounds. But yeah, so moving on, we still have more feathery detail. Yeah, like I said, the red really helps bring out the details on the figure, especially on the top. You can see how much feathers the Therizinosaurus has. So really nicely applied here. Of course, we also get scaly textures on the bottom of the figure. Of course, nice scales. Then of course, moving on to the legs, you can see some feathers right here, which are really nicely sculpted and textured with some more scales, of course. This portion is where the feathers sort of stops. And then we move on to the scaly feet. Nice scales on the feet, definitely bird-like. So really nicely done. The feet are nicely sized. They may be a bit oversized, but it's no big deal. I mean, it does help with stability anyways for the figure, so not a big deal breaker. Like I said, got the dew claws sculpted, really nicely done. You can also see the, I'm not sure if the camera can focus, the copyright is on this leg, with universal implementation, all that stuff. We have continuing like the feathering textures. So yep. Then we got a nice feathery tail actually on the top. So nice feathered sculpted on the tail, really nicely done. You can see the button that released on the action features. Then looking at the bottom, we can see, more textures, scaly textures. Interesting how the battery is actually on the it's actually at the tail itself where the action feature lies. So maybe an engineering choice by Mattel and a little bit unique for this sort of for Mattel's roster. Though then again, considering how odd the dinosaur is, I can kind of see why they would do that. But of course, let's get into the main attractions. We got the big claws themselves. Yep, so starting up with the arms. We got textures on them, nice scaly textures. I can move the arms here. You can hear the sounds again. Nice scaly textures on the arms. The hands themselves are really nicely sculpted. We can see nice textures on them, especially on the top. We can see plated details on the claws, or hands, I should say. Really nice textures on them. Really nicely applied. Of course, we got more of the feathers on the bottom of the arms. Really nicely textured and well done. Yep, so nice more textures on the hands themselves. The bottom hands are a little bit more bumpy in terms of the scale, so pretty cool. And of course, we got the big claws themselves. They actually have really nice textures. Actually, you can actually see the paint. Mine is a bit scratchy, though. Like I said, this was on the shelf on Target, so kids more or less might horse around with this, so no big deal. But we can see, nice. A nice wash on the bottom portion of the claws, and they get a little bit lighter at the tips. It goes with both claws. So yeah, both Each claws are nicely textured with nice grooves on them. So really nicely done. Yep, so they definitely captured the look of Therizinosaurus very well, in my opinion. The colors themselves are a grayish with a bit of tan mixed with it. So really nicely done. So nice claws they definitely did. Really big claws also. So I think they captured the look of the Therizinosaurus very well, because these are indeed the most infamous thing about the dinosaurs. So yeah. And as I mentioned, the main paint scheme for the figure, it's a really good one. I'm not sure if I can position her in the right position. I'm not entirely sure if this color scheme is accurate to the movie, because I do remember the Therizinosaurus being a bit more darker. It didn't really have, the brighter green as we can see on the body. Though, I might have to rewatch the movie again, because, we of course got the Blu-ray out with the extended version, which, I may have some words for the extended version if it's any better than the theatrical cut, because if you guys know me, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Dominion right now, but dinosaurs designs are cool, and Therizinosaurus is definitely one of the better parts of the film. So so in terms of the paint scheme, definitely, well, it's not entirely 100% accurate. It actually works for the figure, and the figure itself really nicely sculpted, nice textures all around. They definitely capture the look of not just the dinosaur from the film, but the dinosaur in real life also. So I think Mattel did a solid job with this one. Now, in terms of articulation, I'm not going to get into action features just yet, but in terms of articulation, we have the arms. Actually, the arms can actually move really well, actually. So we can do a full 360 there. They can move in and out, and the elbows can move in and out, really nicely done. The claws, they can move just as well also. We can see a 360. They can go in and out. So, and the same thing goes for both arms. So both arms can do that. Actually, this one may be a bit stiffer on mine, but that's okay. 360 and in and out, as you can see. Claws can move in and out. You can hear more of its sound. So, and the claws can move 360. So with the claws, if you can actually get them in pretty nice positions, actually. You can get them in crazy poses like this, which I think looks really photogenic, actually, or even this sort of pose, if you want. Mattel definitely did a good job with the arm articulation. And moving on to the legs, they can move a bit in and out, like a lot of their figures. And even the knees. The knees actually move, actually. Not exactly a whole lot, but, they can actually move in and out like this. So that's actually really interesting. And they can kind of move. Actually, they're actually pretty stiff. My legs are stiff, so I don't think I would really risk moving them 360. So I think it can just move in certain positions like this. But really interesting how the knees actually have articulation regardless. And the feet. So the feet on mine, particularly this foot, is a bit stiff on mine, as you can see. But it can still go 360. As to with this feet can move a bit smoother. But so in terms of the articulation, the Therizinosaurus is surprisingly well articulated, actually. So that's a pretty big compliment, considering Mattel is just this isn't, really the Hammond collection. So they actually did pretty good job for, this particular figure with the articulation. And of course we got, if you can guys see, we have the scan for the code for the Jurassic Facts app, as you can see. Yep, so you can probably scan, get this closer. If I could get a good view, so not sure if you guys can scan it, but there you go. But yep, so like I said, articulation is pretty solid on the Therizinosaurus, so really good. Now, of course, let's get on to the action feature. So I think I might as well say this, and I think a lot of people say this about this figure also. This guy is a sound magnet. What I mean is that if you move this figure one bit, she will make a lot of sound even when you're not moving the tail. So obviously the main function is with the tail. So if I can get the arms in a certain position, you can slash them. There's of course the slashing Therizinosaurus. So sounds are pretty nice. So yeah, definitely pretty fun action feature. Definitely fits the Therizinosaurus really well. Get it slashing its enemies. Then of course we got a button on this part of the tail, and it lets out its roars. So yep, that's 1, 2, 3. I think that's the 4th one. So yeah, there are at least 4 sounds that comes with the Therizinosaurus' roar. So really nicely done. They sound pretty solid, I want to say. And actually, I might as well talk about the teeth paint since I opened its mouth. If I can get a closer look. Teeth paint, actually really nicely, not too bad. Of course, it's not exactly the cleanest paint. You can kind of see some bleeding here at the bottom. Some bleeding, but it isn't too bad. The tongue is nicely sculpted. Also, got a bit of paint on the roof, sort of pinkish color. But yep, so teeth, mouth, paint mouth, pretty good. And of course, the action features, really good for the Therizinosaurus for sure. Like, definitely one of the more fun figures in the Dominion toy line. Just like, it's, one of the best sculpted figures in the Dominion toy line. So, definitely really nice action features and articulation, of course. So, yeah. So, with that being said, I think we can move on with the scaling. So, putting the Therizinosaurus middle, adjusting the camera. So like I said, this figure is relatively big. So, if I can bring out some big theropods along with her. We of course got Rexy. This is the Legacy Collection Extreme Choppin T-Rex. I still own that one. Yes, I know there are fancier T-Rexes right now, but I still like to hold this one for some reason. I don't know. It just speaks a lot more nostalgia with me. And we actually got something that is in Mattel's Giganotosaurus. We got this Giganotosaurus figure that I actually painted a while back. For those who have seen my old account before it got hacked. So yeah. So this is, I'm not sure who made this Giga, but I got this model and I of course painted. And after seeing the Mattel figure in person, I'm probably gonna stick with my own Giga right now, cause I'm not exactly the biggest fan of Mattel's action feature for their figures. So yeah. So of course, we can kind of recreate, the final battle in the movie. We got, the Therizinosaurus. If I can put the Therizinosaurus in position, to move Rexy to the side. The part where Therizinosaurus pierced through the Giga. So yeah, that was, like I said, pretty epic final move. Of course, we got Rexy. There's a obviously not entirely size accurate. Of course, Rexy would be a bit bigger, around the same size as Therizinosaurus. If I can move them. Oh, sorry, Giga. Yeah, if I can put. Damn it. Sorry about that, folks. But yeah, if we can put Therizinosaurus and Rexy sort of side by side. Actually, they're around the same size. Though, like I said, Therizinosaurus was around 33 feet, though we're not exactly sure how big the clone Therizinosaurus is, since some of the dinosaur clones in Jurassic tend to be a bit bigger than in real life. And I would imagine Rexy would just be bigger than Therizinosaurus, but I don't know, they still look pretty good together. I think, maybe one of the more bigger figures like the Hammond and the Thrasher T-Rex would be more size accurate compared to Therizinosaurus, but they still look good together. And of course, like I said, we got the Giga. Yeah, I think actually the Giga and Therizinosaurus, I think they're actually reasonably scaled pretty well. Of course, this Giga is on like a base, but if I can just put it, yeah, they look pretty good still. So yeah, so needless to say, if I can get them in position, needless to say, I don't need to spend $100 wasting on the big battle pack Mattel is wasting. Yeah, I'm satisfied with this release already, along with the figures I already have. So joke's on you, Mattel. I don't need that figure set, because even if it has Ellie Sattler, between you guys, I don't really collect Mattel human figures at all, actually. So yeah, I only care about dinosaurs, so I don't need Ellie Sattler. So yep. So joke's on them. So yep, pretty nice to scale with the big guys. Then of course bring in smaller Mattel figures. If I can put Therizinosaurus in this position. We got Blue. This is actually the original Attack Pack Blue from the Fallen Kingdom line. Yeah, I still got that figure, despite so many Blues being out there. And then of course we got Owen. So yeah, Owen here. So we can see, yeah, this is, yeah, like I said, one of the bigger figures in Mattel's roster. So since she's pretty big compared to Blue and Owen, so you can see a nice scale between them. And since Owen is a human figure, and because I don't have Claire, if I can sort of imagine, the scene where Claire is hiding from the Therizinosaurus, we got that promotional picture. Of course, Owen is in her place. And you can get the scene where Owen is, well, actually, Claire was in the tree and Therizinosaurus was near. Yeah, I think the scaling is pretty good with the human figures with Therizinosaurus. So, yep. Of course, we got her with, a smaller Attack Pack figure also. But, yeah, so I think in terms of scaling with bigger figures, or smaller figures, I should say, Therizinosaurus looks pretty good. So, yeah. So, moving down the side, let's now compare it to just a regular dinosaur figure for those who collect dinosaur models. If I can put her, oh, yeah, sorry about that, folks, but yeah. Here we got my custom painted Terabyte T-Rex here. So you get, an estimate what compared to dinosaur models. And yeah, even though this is obviously, of course, inaccurate, of course, T-Rex was obviously, around the same size, if not bigger than Therizinosaurus and all that. But yeah, they still look really good together, even though it's not accurate. But yeah, gives you a good perspective on, Mattel's figures and dinosaur models. So, yep. So, yeah, scaling's out of the way. So, my final thoughts on Mattel's Therizinosaurus. To get her in a position. Yeah, I think Mattel did a really solid job with Therizinosaurus here. really nicely well sculpted, pretty good paint, even though it's not really accurate. Articulation is pretty good actually for the figure, considering this is part of the main line. Action feature is really cool, even though it's a sound magnet, like I said. Yeah, action feature is pretty fun. Scaling is pretty good next with our figures, and the paint is really solid, despite some of the mishaps I did mention. But yeah, so overall, if you're a fan of, because I know some people are a fan of Dominion, and a lot of people are obsessed with with Therizinosaurus. I definitely recommend this figure, and definitely one of the better Therizinosaurus figures right now, because the only other Therizinosaurus I can think of would be Schleich, Collecte, and Papo. I think Collecte's Therizinosaurus is good. Schleich actually reminds me of the Dominion Therizinosaurus, so that could be a good substitute. Papo's, it's not really that good in terms of the Therizinosaurus, but that's a discussion for another day. But yeah, I think Mattel did a solid job doing Therizinosaurus justice. So yeah, so I think that's it for this review. Like I said, really solid figure. Mattel did a good job with this one. So yeah, so that's it for this review. So I'll see you guys next time.